I want to introduce Sylvia Fuentes and her husband, Lenny, who have taken an opportunity to host what we're calling roundtables. And these are going to be community organized events, and basically for the purpose of getting the word out to the everyday guy and woman, because there's a lot of people who are just go to the city council meetings, or they're just tied into writing a letter. This is true outreach, and I'll explain how we plan to do that. But first I'd like to introduce our host and hostess, Sylvia and Lenny.
Yay! Thank you guys.
Okay, well, here I am introduced. You're welcome to my home. I hope that we get something good accomplished today. I have been in this 5 years ago, from July 2010 till now. I have been active and not active because I have that fibromyalgia, so sometimes I'm not too active. But Mike Gomez and Ken Ellis have a lot to do with taking me where I have to go, when I have to go, taking care of me if I get sick in the middle of something. And I really appreciate these two guys. The Lord took one of my sons away, but He gave me two. And so I'm very happy with these young men, and I appreciate them, and I love them. And if it weren't for them, I still wouldn't be doing this. But they hold me up. They're the air under my wings.
Likewise.
So that's just what I wanted to say. And my husband, this is my husband, and I don't know if you have anything to say.
Well, I just want to welcome you to my house, and my wife wanted to do this, so we're hosting this event, and to see if anything will come out of this situation about the police department killing a lot of people, and we need to put a stop to it one way or another.
Yep.
And this is what we're here for.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Fuentes.
Okay, so why don't we just go ahead and sit down and start?
If they don't get here by 10:15, let's just go with it because.
Okay. So basically, go ahead and sit down, everybody relax. I'll kind of just, the people that are coming know a little bit about me, but just in the interim, I can at least, because I'd like really to see Dinah here, and Adriana, they're Russian. My name is Maria Bautista Lara. You know me from the community, and I work on issues in the community independently because I don't like to be tied down by other people's rules and regulations. And I get very frustrated when I go to the city council meeting and they say, oh, you have 2 minutes. Everybody has 2 minutes, and they don't really get a complete story from us unless we're all ringing bells and protesting. I'm committed to this reform. I grew up here. I'm very disappointed in what I'm seeing. You can't even imagine. This is kind of like a vindication for aggrieved families. I want you to know that the reason I invited more Hispanics to this first roundtable was because our numbers are so high in regard to the shootings. I'm also going to be organizing roundtables throughout Albuquerque. In the Asian community, I already have the African American community organizing the roundtable. The idea is have people invite the monitor into the house so he's not tied up with reports from City Hall, with agendas from organizations, but that he can really go out with you and meet the people in the community. Be able to just throw in the fishing rod and work with us. Pete Donnelly, I've known Pete for a long time. He's been involved with the city, He's not now a politician, but he should have been, because I know he would at least take us under his wing and work with us. But he's here at the table and willing to say, you know what, we do need to go out. Because that's the one thing I think we're missing is the outreach. And this is Dinah Vargas.
There she is.
Dinah. And Adriana
Good morning. Thank you very much. I know it took a real leap of faith to do this. I'd like to thank Maria for vouching for me on relatively minor information, I think. But the main reason I wanted to do this, the most critical part of this entire process, is this part. This is the only place I go where I don't get filtered information. So this is critical. Everything else I get is filtered in one way or another. It's either filtered politically.
APD filters it for you? No way.
Well, maybe, yeah. So, but I understand that, and so that's why this is so critical. And the reason I asked Maria to work with us on this is because after I had met with probably close to 300 people, Maria was your shining light. I could tell she understood this community. She understands the issues. She's, like most of you, she's lived them for years, if not decades. So the important piece here is, and Maria and I had a long conversation about this, is that here I get the unvarnished truth, and that's what I need. Now, everybody understands that everybody has perceptions, and sometimes perceptions don't match reality, but at least these are unfiltered perceptions, and I think it's important for me to hear. This is the first of many of these sessions that we hope to have, and Maria has been a real godsend. Bad ankle and all.
Well, it matches your bad knee.
It matches my bad ankle. Maria had one of these scheduled last month, and I had a surgery scheduled on my right ankle. So it's healed bad. They canceled the surgery because my blood pressure was so high. So anyway, I'm here because I want to hear what you have to say. I want to understand, and more importantly, I want to prioritize your issues. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time giving a speech. I just want to let you know that I'm committed to this. This is the third one of these projects that I've done. It's the fourth one I've been intimately involved with, and I haven't failed yet, and I don't want to fail here in Albuquerque. All right? I want to leave here with change made, like we did in Pittsburgh, like we did in New Jersey, like I helped to do in Los Angeles. And the important thing is we want that change to be long-lasting. We don't want it just to be for a 4-year period. So that's what we really want to work on, is finding out from the folks who matter, from the folks who know, how we make this change last. In Pittsburgh, my fault. I was so focused on getting the job done. It was the first one that had ever been done. I was focused on getting the job done. I wasn't focused on what happened after I left. We focused on that in New Jersey, and we built a cadre of organizations to sort of pick up when we left New Jersey. And just last week, a team from APD was in New Jersey, seeing how it's still being done there. It's still being done right. And that's what I would like to have happen here. So with that in mind, I'm going to be quiet, take lots of notes. Let's just have a conversation.
Actually, I have a question for you right off the front, which is, I think it'll help all of us, which is, what exactly are you going to do? Are you supposed to be doing and you plan to do? Because monitor, it's a nebulous concept to all of us, even those of us who have read all about what you're supposed to be doing.
Great question. It was very nebulous the first time I did it because it had never been done before. So I literally had to define what that term meant. There in Pittsburgh, it was called auditor, which is even more nebulous given the situation. They didn't need an auditor there. They really needed a monitor. And that's what we built. A monitor is not someone who's in charge, and we all need to be crystal clear on that. I don't want to tell Chief Egan how to do his job. And the main reason is, if I tell him how to do it, and he does it the way I tell him and it fails, where are we? We're right back where we started. If I don't tell him how to do his job, but if I help him understand the problems, and I help him understand the issues, and if I give him good advice, and he crafts a response, and it turns out based on our accounts and our data collection that it didn't work, we're still in good shape. We can say, okay, Chief, that didn't work, let's try it this way. If we do it the other way, where I say, do it this way, and it doesn't work, we're done, right? So I literally spent 8 hours with my staff in a room before we kicked this project off, basically training them on that one concept. We cannot tell them what to do. We can help them understand problems. We can help them understand alternatives. We can even help them make decisions. And then we have to evaluate their actions. That's our job. We're the evaluators. And we determine whether or not what they did sufficiently met the requirements of that agreement. And that's sort of the touchstone for this whole thing. It's like the, I was going to say Bible, that's not it. It's not that great. It's much less than that, but it's our marching orders. So what we're trying to do is to facilitate and assist APD in growing out of what they are and into what you want them to be. Within reason. I understand, and you understand, we can't tell APD how we want them to do their jobs, but we can tell them how they need to do it if they're going to do it legally and effectively, and that's what we want to do. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I probably interrupted you. I apologize.
No, it's fine, it's fine. I have a tendency to go on and on and on, so it's good to be.
So does he.
Could be cut off.
Yeah. It's good to be kept under control.
Could you all do just one thing? When you speak, say who you are, because he's sorting it, he doesn't have sound.
Dr. Ginger, for information purposes, my background is such. My name is Pete Dinelli. I've been practicing law for 37 years. I'm a former Chief Deputy District Attorney, former Chief Public Safety Officer for the City of Albuquerque. I've held a number of prosecutorial positions, and I've also been a judge. I was asked here because they felt that perhaps I could give you some history of what's happening. But the one thing you talked about, about being unvarnished, I think the biggest problem you have right now is that you have a number of individuals that are in charge that have caused the problem. And it's the management of this department. And I'll be very specific about it. You have a couple of majors that were involved over the years that are the new majors. One is a former K-9 unit head. The other one is a former SWAT head. Another one is was a former IA commander. You have a number of individuals that are now in charge that I think got us to where we're at today. Now the history of what had happened, and believe me, I struggled with this. 10 years ago, I was a deputy city attorney for the city of Albuquerque, and I was involved with overseeing some aspects of the police department. And that also included the general counsel for the police department. 10 years ago, what happened in this city was John Hyde killed 2 police officers. He also killed 3 citizens. He was mentally ill. And the reason why I bring that up is that 10 years ago, Albuquerque hit a peak where community-based policing was critical, and it started to really take off. When Hyde killed those individuals, there was a tremendous shift in law enforcement. What I do remember is that the then chief said, "This would never happen under my watch again. It will never happen under my watch again." I remember those words vividly. 6 months later, the deputy McGrain was killed. He was shot in the face. What happened was that we went from prioritizing community-based policing to officer safety became the #1 priority. And you saw a major shift in training and attitude by the department. It took 5 years, though, for that to come to fruition.
Before you started seeing results on the street.
And what happened was that they changed the training dynamics tremendously. They brought in Homeland Security, and they also were very aggressive in basically putting the fear of God in these new recruits. The chief also concentrated on what I felt was a bigger emphasis on military backgrounds. And I think what you had, you had dynamics where individuals that were used to defending their country and killing the enemy were now having to change their attitude of being that of to serve and protect. What I'm trying to say is serve and protect is the basis of policing.
Used to be.
Used to be. But when they started recruiting individuals, they changed the dynamics of the training, and I think that's what led up to it. And it started in 2010 is when you had a tremendous spike in these police officer involved shootings. Now, I've read the stipulated settlement. I've read the original report that came out of the DOJ. I'll try to follow this as carefully as I can. But I think one of the biggest problems you have is that I know that you have to come up with some sort of a personnel analysis. Do we have enough police officers, sworn police officers, to implement this DOJ reform? I'll tell you point blank, you don't have enough.
Right.
You only have 404 sworn officers that are taking calls for service, 911 calls. On top of that, you're top-heavy with management. And what bothers me is that according to the stipulated settlement, you do not have any management control over any of these people. And that's going to be part of your problem. Because if you can't give them direct orders as to make the changes, I doubt very seriously they're going to make any of the changes.
And he knows this from experience.
And believe me, I do.
Oh, I've seen it happen before, so I don't doubt you at all.
So what you've got, again, and I can give you specific names, but that would probably be best if I meet with you in private.
Right.
But I think you're going to get nothing but resistance from this police department. They do not want oversight. And I have a history of this because when I was on the city council, I was the first one to call for police oversight in the council, and that position was created. What I am concerned about that they think that 40 hours of CIT training, apparently that's already been implemented, is going to be enough to deal with the mentally ill. It's not.
Right.
And I would hope that you would look into that further. The other thing too is there's supposed to be a mental health advisory committee that was supposed to be done within 6 months after it was signed off on. I don't know where we're at on that.
Bylaws have just been created, but
Okay.
there's a long distance between bylaws and operation.
There's also supposed to be a protocol for release and exchange of information on the known mentally ill that they're dealing with. I don't know where we're at on that. But I can go through almost line for line the areas that are concern of mine. But the real question is, how do we solve the problem? How do we get from a very aggressive police department with the culture of aggression, which was found, and then translate that into reform? And I put together a packet. I'm going to just give that to you.
Great.
That gives you what I feel could be done as far as a proposal. But I think this is a department that needs to be completely reorganized, restructured, and prioritized, reestablished.
Retrain.
And retrained. You're not going to get there with the police chief. And I think that what is needed is far more civilian oversight,
Yes.
including the training.
Now, by civilian oversight, you're talking about like a DPS, or Director of Public Safety?
That's exactly what I'm proposing.
Okay.
A director of public safety, it's in here.
You and I need to, because I'm thinking along the same lines, let's get together and talk about how that might work.
A director of public safety would be a private citizen, but I would take it in a step further. The director of public safety, and it would be a department of public safety that would have authority over both the police department as well as the fire department and 911. And my background is such, I oversaw 911.
Right.
And we have gone now, 911, I did that, we got the calls for service down to 8.54 seconds. Response.
On the 911 system. Right, okay.
8.54 minutes. They're at 11 minutes now. But the Department of Public Safety would be responsible for policy and procedures. You would not have a cop in charge, you would not have a fireman, you would have a private citizen that would have authority, that would take over all internal affairs, that would take over policies and procedures, that would take over all training. They'd be in charge of the discipline actions. They'd also be in charge of the academy. And you would remove all sworn police officers and sworn firefighters from the disciplinary process. And it would be a highly aggressive individual. That individual would be appointed by the mayor with advising consent of the council. The department would be created by city ordinance. And the key is that individual would have the hiring and firing authority over the police and fire chief. And those individuals would not report to the mayor or the CEO. I also think the CEO that's there now is going to be part of your problem.
Absolutely.
I think that he's going to give you whatever information he wants to give you. And you're going to be faced with a situation of trying to pull that information out of him.
Can I elaborate and interrupt you just for a minute? We were in a meeting, and our representative, the executive branch, Mo Maestas, stated that there's nothing going to change in this administration and in this city until we get rid of the current mayor and his cronies.
Well, I'm not even going near that.
I'm just saying,
I'm
a state
not gonna
representative,
go-
my representative, up here in the roundhouse said that nothing's going to change.
Dr. Ginger, I want to make it very clear. I also
And
ran
me
for
too.
mayor. My political career is over. I'm retired now, but I love my community. I was born and raised here. I have, in my family, I also had a history of mental illness. It was my father. He was a disabled American veteran. Back then, they called it schizophrenia.
Right.
Today, they call it post-traumatic stress. And I'm absolutely convinced that what happened to the Boyd shooting could have been avoided had there been more leadership by the police department. And I can get into that too. And again, you wanted something unvarnished. I was the first attorney that I was asked to prosecute that case by Kerry Brandon, and I had to decline. We've got some serious problems in here. What bothers me is that you're only given the authority to audit. All you can do is make recommendations. But with that, I would hope that you would sit down and make the recommendation that this is a department that has to be reorganized, and you've got to get rid of or remove or demote a lot of the people that are in charge and get more officers in the street. Until that happens, you're not going to secure real reform. The academy also needs to be addressed. The training, I think, is totally inadequate now. 6 years ago, we had one of the finest academies in the United States. You can't say that now. And they've changed the training totally. And again, I'm not just shooting from the hip. After 27 and a half years and being in government, I think I can say that I know what I'm talking about. But until we wake up, until this community wakes up and really gets involved, what bothers me is that it takes a homeless person getting shot on the side of a mountain before people wake up
To mobilize.
to mobilize.
Pete,
That's true everywhere, by the way. That's not just Albuquerque, right? We all know that. It's not just here.
No, I probably went on way too long than I can. I've got other points that I can give you. I'll give you my
Is your
My
contact
proposals.
information in here?
business card is in there. I gave you, there's also in there is news accounts, news reports. There's a really ugly photograph of me on the front page of one of them. But the point is that I'm very sincere with what I'm telling you. I think I can give you a lot more insight than you want. But my goal is to try to improve the department, because I'm absolutely convinced that when we left office 6 years ago, this department was one of the best trained, best equipped, best manned, and best paid departments in the United States.
Had a great reputation.
Yep.
And where are we at today? It's in the toilet. But we have a mayor that says he thinks APD's on a good track. I was
You know-
flabbergasted when he said that.
you know, Pete, I want to pull back a little bit. Let me tell you why.
I'm done.
Well, I respect what you're saying.
We're barely getting
Yeah,
started.
they're very late. But let me tell you what's really great about this, is that I want it to go just like that from each and every one of you, because what Pete is saying now, Dr. Ginger doesn't get. That's the whole point. And what makes it even better is that, let's say, Mike organizes 12 people in his neighborhood. Dr. Ginger comes. It's an informal gathering. We call them roundtables, named after Sylvia's table. And also, and also I sat there with her.
Not King Arthur's table?
Yeah, well, almost. I really want each of you to do just what Pete did. I think it's really important. And if you feel like it, you want to go this way, that's fine.
That's a hard act to follow.
Yeah, it is.
Pete is probably arguably the most knowledgeable about what's going on prior to it starting to get messed up.
When I reached out to the DOJ, I went to one of the meetings and gave them my cards and you want to talk to me, and I never heard from them.
Well, and honestly, not to defend DOJ, but that's not their role. You know, it is my role. So I'll beat your door down, and you and I'll get to be really good friends. And just so everybody knows, originally the plan was for us to be sort of itinerant. We'll come visit and leave, come visit and leave, come visit and leave. one of the reasons I'm here is I'm looking for a home here. That's not for public record, because people start to expect it and demand it and that sort of thing, but the job is big enough that it's not an itinerant piece of work. So hopefully by October or early October, middle of October, I'll have a place, if not in Albuquerque, within 25 or 30 minutes drive, that I can be here and you and I can carry on some long
And
conversations.
I'll give you as
So-
much of my time as you
so
want.
with
I'm
everybody.
retired and I.
And you know, do you have your business cards? Doc,
Duh.
I have
It's
some
out
to
there.
with me, but one of the things Dr. Ginger, he wants you to call him. This isn't a separation that you can't be directly connected to him. The whole point is, let's connect. Let's do it. Dinah has all the best info. She's even documenting here because that stuff shows so much. It shows the people, shows their ages, shows who the community is, shows how people come out, you know, and you want to let that go. Danny, are you ready to go with this?
I'm not.
Okay, anybody who wants to
Actually,
speak
I
up?
can't do something like that. I'd rather chime in when the subject comes.
Right on. Okay, anybody want to go on a lead? Adriana maybe, or?
I don't know, is anybody keeping
Just
like
go around, let her go, let's go
Sure.
around.
Okay.
Good morning, thank you, as Maria mentioned, I'm Adriana Villar, and I want to thank you for inviting me, and thank you for hosting us, and thank you, Dr. Ginger, for being here, and even if the reasons that led you here weren't like so great, I'm glad that you are here because it's obviously challenging something and do it well and fast and lasting, and I'm really glad that Pete's here because I know that you know, oftentimes a lot of the divisions between the administration or, you know, the professionals in our community who are like who are more privy to maybe some of the information that's occurring internally that a lot of the community only sees like after the fact and that we rightfully react to. And I just want to mention that, just back up a bit, I'm also from here, I was born and raised. I was born in South Broadway, but I was still a baby when we moved down the street, like by, it's called Wells Park, but it's a few blocks away, like 12 minutes. So I've been here my entire life, and I've managed to be able to like capture enough now. I'm almost 40, so that kind of gives me a good bit of like, I think, local information. And I've also had first-hand experiences with police, some that have not been so pleasant. And I've also witnessed, even just in my family and growing up, and also now seeing, you know, in the larger community, the escalation and the force, use of force, and the like the breakdown in the relationship between the community and the police. And I have my own criticisms to like to what extent do we need police and how much power should they have or whatever. And I think just basically in terms of like why I'm here is because I'm committed to, I mean, I care about this place. And I am also committed to what the law is and what it means. And as somebody who has not gone to law school, who's aspiring to become a teacher, I did do my master's in community development at UNM, the Community Regional Planning Program. And I have been involved in the community as an organizer for like 20 years on a variety of issues. And I have also had, during some of my run-ins with the police, had first-hand experience with the criminal justice system in the state of New Mexico, having been a defendant in multiple cases, unfortunately having been acquitted. And even within that, like, there was a time when I sat in jail for 6 months, and I don't know to what extent, I mean, I think that it is central to what is occurring with the police department and what happens at the jail. As you might know, there is the open reclaiming lawsuit. And I think it's related, and whether or not it's within the scope of what you can do while you're here, I think it's important that I bring it up because I think it's part of another part of the same problem. And that, you know, if we can at least put everything that we have on the table, that's kind of like the way at least I like to work, where we kind of like get a full scope of what we're working with, and then we, based on what we understand is within our immediate influence or not, and time and all those other constraints, how we can prioritize what we want to do. But I really want to bring it to your attention that I think there's serious problems with the jail side of the police, the police's role in our community. and I actually did a survey while I was there on hold, pending trial for 6 months. And it's an anonymous survey mainly of female inmates' opinions. And that I haven't been able to, well, I'm not satisfied with presenting it to somebody, and I'm trying to work on that, and hopefully I'll manage to have something presentable for you, so that at least if you, someone in the Justice Department would like to give it a look-see, I think they have to, because the conditions under McClendon are being monitored, and I have reason to believe that there's still some serious work that needs to be done, especially related to women.
Are they being monitored by an external source?
Federal court.
Federal
It's
court,
federal
okay.
court order. Isn't that right, Keith? Right. So, anyway, just to finally get to the point of like what I'd like to head up, and Danny and I in the past when the community has had meetings, and we've tried to identify like the kind of the working groups and get a little more organized amongst ourselves. I enlisted into more like the legal part of the kind of organizing. Legal, be it like demonstrating, because that's one of our civil rights.
As opposed to illegal.
No, or just as opposed to, you know, not having any particular agenda. I have an agenda, and I would like to focus on the legal part of it, because I think sometimes, you know, by the time all these things are happening on the ground, somebody has given those orders. And as they like to say, you know, I'm just doing my job, and then I'm like, okay, then why am I wasting time arguing with an officer, and I end up getting tased and tackled by 3 of them because I'm defending my civil rights. When we could work with the people who tell them what they're supposed to do and what they're not supposed to do. Which brings me to like what I'd like to participate with here. We've tried to work on some of the grand jury stuff, right? The indictments and getting some of these officers having an independent grand jury and the petition for that. And also,
stack petitions this thing.
yes, and also, you know, even things like involving, like revisiting the circumstances surrounding Mary Hahn's death, because as you know, she was a civil rights attorney who was very successful in, pardon my language, kicking APD's ass fairly and squarely in the courtroom. And when they turn up, people like that turn up dead with, you know, not enough convincing explanation, it makes us very wary. And then we find out that as community organizers, when we're like having demonstrations and rallying the community where we've obtained permits, and it's completely constitutionally protected action, that we are being spied on by APD, where we discovered through a NIPR request that the APD had sent undercover officers to conduct surveillance at a community event to raise awareness around police brutality.
When was this?
In June, right?
June
That was the March, wasn't
Last
it?
year.
June 21st.
Last year that we know of. So not only is that a violation of the state statute against prohibiting police profiling based on political affiliation.
Just look it up. There were stories in.
Yes, and I'd be happy to like even at some point maybe draft something a little more.
So to elaborate on that, I was there. We got a 3-hour
Actually, we all
protest.
were.
And I'll wrap
We
up.
were all there.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think almost all of us were.
I was
But like in
I
the
was there.
beginning, yeah.
And the undercover guy focused in on me and
Oh, you talked about this in a previous, what was it?
Gloria.
Yeah.
Gloria. And so we have a 3-hour protest,
Right.
and we did it IPRA to get whatever
No
undercover footage they had, and they gave us 5 minutes of focusing on me and
Like a cut edited
other,
version.
but they never did do it. That was it.
And then if I
So-
may add to that, we did find, we had the news footage of what they showed, but there was also another person filming from another perspective, so you can see them in like that. So we were able to obtain that video in its entirety, and then we cleaned it up as far as resolution and stuff, and then we cut it frame by frame. And you know, equally in that, like when that fight happened in the beginning with that one man that appeared to be homeless, or at least was reported homeless, an altercation happened, and that entire scene looks questionable. There's questionable things in that video, and you know there is a killer cop in that video that seems to be directing stuff, But it took us nearly 8 months to render all of this stuff, and then make each slide a perfect photo, and but that still happens today. Like it's.
And I can wrap up. Sorry to interrupt, but I'll go ahead and finish just the part that I was going to say because I know everyone wants to speak. And it's all related, right? I'm not like saying, but I think ultimately I'm glad that I have limitations on my time and availability, but I'd be happy most importantly because I don't see it being in the middle of the discussion is that there have been a series of community groups, and at some point we've already developed 18 demands that we would like, including these reforms. And I'm not going to pretend that I comb through the brief and I comb through every single of the pleadings or outcomes of these official proceedings, but I really think that it's important that, and I will see too that you have a copy of those 18 demands because we have facilitated groups, right, in the community at different times. And this is something that a lot of us have agreed to. And I think it's important that while the community's agenda, is like at the forefront, that you're well apprised. Because there's things that are already like, we're seeing a lot of the same things that we had asked for, but we're also seeing things that like we've been asking for expressly because of the fact that we think that's what it's going to take, and it's nowhere in what's been taken seriously. And I would like that to. Thank you.
One of the things I do have to follow up on, remember what I said, that the people in charge now are solving the problem.
Right.
The Mayor Hahn case is a prime example. I'm a civil rights lawyer. I went toe to toe with her on more than one occasion. You had a deputy chief out there. You had the chief administrative officer, who is now who is the city attorney. They were all out there taking photographs of her dead body. And they also turned over her hard drive. And again, the people that you have in charge now, a lot of them were there then. And this happened only 5 years ago.
And they even stole like multi-$1,000 rings that were heirloom rings and just.
Well, that's
The problem that I've had all along here is it's just,
Disgusting.
we're just beating a dead horse. We keep saying this, we keep expressing the same thing. That's all been exposed, so what we need now is solutions. That's what we're here for, is for solutions.
exactly.
Well, I just want to make sure you know
Time,
that I
time.
think our life is in danger.
Yes.
Because I think Mary is an example of what happens when people fight and win. And we're being profiled. And I'm sick and tired of having to feel afraid to defend my community.
I understand.
Pardon my language, it's bullshit. But if we have to go Black Panther and we have to get community policing, and if that's what it's going to take to keep our community from not being killed because they're homeless, because they have nowhere else to go, because the city has failed in responding to its real needs, I'm really tired of us having to that's the pink elephant in the room, okay? I'm in fear for my life. I have reason to be in fear for my life. I shouldn't be in fear for my life. And I want you to know that that's a priority for me.
Okay,
if I'm going to participate and I'm going to die, at least I want you to know who some of the suspects can be.
And she's not suicidal.
Yeah, and I'm not suicidal.
Let me say something. This brings up a lot for all of us. You know it. I know
I'm not
it.
yelling at you, by the
No,
way.
I understand.
I want you to all know how much this brings up.
That's my normal form of speech.
A couple weeks ago, my nephew was in the car with some friends. They drove by a house. They riddled it with bullets. He's now being tried for murder. Okay?
Stephanie's son?
Donovan is my grandnephew. So we know it's here. It's here. We don't know what precipitated. We don't know what happened. I'm sure it'll all come out in the wash. But nonetheless, there's not one person here that isn't affected by something at some point regarding violence in this city.
And by the police.
And exactly, we know something's going down. And I appreciate you coming.
I'm
I know, hey, I really do. I know it took time, and you put your very guts out on this table, and that's the purpose. Now, Danny said he had wanted to say some stuff, and
Thank
then
you,
and sir, Lulak, Frank, and then Frank can ask. Why don't we do that and pass the rattle to each other? He'll speak, and he passes it to the next person.
I'll be brief.
And then we have Mario and Sylvia. We know Mike, we know Ken, we know me, but let's let the one of you that know.
Please feel free to drink coffee or whatever. We went out real early to go get that stuff for all of you, so I will
So eat it.
So belly up.
Or I have to eat it all by myself.
Dinah, you better
Okay.
get over here.
My name is Danny Hernandez. I wasn't born and raised here, but I've been here over 30 years. And I've been an organizer most of that time, let's say 28 of those years. About 16 years ago, 15, 16 years ago, I was working professionally as a community organizer. I was organizing communities, neighborhoods, like Wells Park, Barelas, what was called Trumbull back then, La Mesa. And my job was to help APD reduce crime. So I had a pretty tight relationship with APD. At the time, I was also president of my own neighborhood association, and I was able to shut down drug houses, etc., because we had something called community policing. They came to our meetings, they were part of our community, and they helped us out. Well, John Hyde shot 2 police officers, and all of a sudden, everything completely changed. So I'm kind of reaffirming what Pete's saying, although Pete saw it from inside, I saw it from a neighborhood association president perspective. That all of a sudden, we became the bad guys. We were all suspect, and that's a problem. And I'm just going to go through a very short litany of problems that I see, because I honestly didn't think I was going to come here and do what Pete did. Pete came fully prepared. And of course, some of what you heard was...
He has experience, so...
Well, part of what you heard also was Pete's platform from his mayoral run. So he's not only got experience, but he spent over a year practicing part of what you heard and said.
How about preparing? Practicing sounds all sketchy.
No, I was in the room when we were practicing. And that's not a slight on Pete. I mean, he was trying to do the right thing. And he would have had he gotten elected.
Had we turned out to vote.
Had we turned out to
as
vote.
well as we did against the late term abortion ban referendum.
Right.
Anyway,
Adriana mentioned one of them, which is, they're vicious. I was an elected official less than a year ago, but because I opposed the mayor, he got one of his cronies to run against him, and he backed her against me, so I lost my elected position, which is partly my own stupidity, because the numbers told me that I was going to win no matter what, and then it turned out to be a 39.5% voter turnout, which was so abysmal that I lost because of the numbers. But part of the problem is that those of us who oppose or perceive to oppose APD are attacked and surveilled. And this has been going on, sorry Pete, like from way back, not just with this mayor. There's a culture with an APD that they protect their own, and they do that illegally a lot of the times. There's also an issue that you might have read about in Ferguson, which is too many damn bench warrants for anything. I'm going to say something in this room I'd really rather not go public on, but I was arrested about a year and a half ago because, actually I think I told you about it, because it was a routine traffic stop. They looked up my name and they had a bench warrant out for me. What happened was my dog's license expired. I had moved and I didn't give my new address to Animal Services. When they sent the notice to my old address, I never received it. So there was a bench warrant out for me because my dog's license had expired. I mean, think of how... So I spent the night in jail because my dog's license has expired. That was insane. Not only that, but...
What year was this?
Yeah, no, it was before... it was actually... it was 2 years ago.
So
2.5 years ago.
2013 or so?
Yeah, thereabouts. So now I sort of have a criminal record because my dog's license had expired.
Thank God they didn't kill you.
I know. Exactly.
Yeah, that's...
But the thing is that
I'd be lucky they didn't call a SWAT out on you.
I'd be willing to bet that there are tons of people out there who have similar experiences. Now, my experience in the Bernalillo County Detention Center was not a happy one. And when I left there, I lost $100 that was in my wallet because it just disappeared. And they were rushing me out the door. If you don't sign that right now, you're going to stay another day, kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
And it's, wait a minute, it's constant coercion from the moment they throw the handcuffs on you to the moment that you get out the door. Then there's the collusion between APD and the media. I mean, whatever APD says, and it's a little less nowadays, but whatever APD says is the gospel truth. And the first thing they do is they destroy your reputation if you get crosswise with them. So I'm imagining somewhere in the future, if I get crosswise with them, they're going to point out the fact that I spent the night in jail. Of course, it's going to be hard for me to get out the fact that I spent the night in jail because my dog's license has expired. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say for the time.
Can I just say, I don't want to forget Clem back here. Okay, I do not want to forget his comments to this group. So remember, at some point, he's very quiet, but his comments will surprise you.
Well, he can go up to Frank.
Mr. Ginger,
Yes? Okay.
my name is Frank Ortega. I belong to the organization, but I'm here individually as a Hispanic man. And the thing is that I was born, like Mr. Denali, I was born in Albuquerque, and I know I'm going to die. The thing is that I was in Watts the first day that they had the riots there. And me and two buddies of mine barely got out of there. Or maybe I wouldn't be safe with daddy. The second thing is come back to Albuquerque, and I remember when the police officer started the riots at Roosevelt Park, here in Albuquerque. I was there, I'd seen it. In fact, my boss armed me with, I worked for Johnny Barberi over at the Little Pump Bar. He just passed away 2 weeks ago. Anyway, he armed me with a shotgun in case those rioters came up to his bar. And I said, I ain't killing nobody for you. It's not my job. My job was to serve people.
Right.
The thing is that I grew up in a house, and it was hard for us to understand Spanish, the way you're brought up as a Hispanic, and then going to school and trying to figure out what that is all about. So we're in a frame that half of us think Hispanic, the other American, or whichever you want to have it. I could never figure out when you go overseas and you get killed, you die as an American. Another American died. When you come back home, you're a Hispanic again. You're a Mexican American. Why not American Mexican? But that's my own. And the thing is that what I'm going to ask you is not trying to do anything to your, but in your group, do you have Hispanics?
Yes.
The people you brought in?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, that's what I just wanted to know.
We do, and right now I'm trying to recruit another Hispanic whose specialty is restorative justice. So, and both of them speak Spanish or fluent in Spanish. The second fellow is a resident of New Mexico. I'm in a process of pushing him through the system right now to get that done. So the answer to the question is
I
yes.
just want them to understand when they go into the Hispanic community how those people think, if they do, you know. The one thing is the Hispanics are the most here in this state and this city.
Right.
But yet we're still on the bottom of the poll. Maybe, I don't know what it is, but I mean, and I know that I've gone into groups and everything, trying to say the Hispanics have got to be up here, not down here. And I'm hoping that someday that'll be true. I probably won't live to see it. But I'm going to tell you one thing, I'm going to give it a heck of a try. The Hispanics have got to learn that they're just as smart as anybody else. I look at a police officer that's a policeman that is Hispanic, and I say to myself, which way does he think? Does he think Hispanic or does he? No, he's got to be thinking cop.
They act,
Yeah.
they got it, they act just like.
That's the third option,
Like
yeah.
a thing that said, his
Yeah.
nationality is cop,
Yeah, that's the
you
third
know,
one.
and everything else. But,
Right.
I really appreciate you listening to me, as long as, you know, we have people that understand the Hispanic community.
I think
Then
that's
we're
very
gonna
important.
be someplace.
You
Yeah,
know,
I mean,
especially
we knew
also
coming
with
in
the-
that was critical, and we've discussed this before, that not only do people like Maria make a big difference by opening doors for us, but I need folks who can get out on the street and open their own doors. And we understand that, we're gonna be doing that, and one of the reasons I'm trying to find the second fellow is because of his focus on restorative justice. And basically, he spent his career getting folks to admit that wrongdoing happened, and then not just admit it, but work to fix it. And that's not within the purview of this monitorship. It's not something that's in the decree, but it doesn't mean that's not something we can do. So I'm gonna hire him for that specific purpose. And it's gotta be approved through DOJ. The city will have a say in it, as they do with everything else on this. So that deal is not done yet, but it's being worked. So, it should
Well,
be-
I'm not prejudiced, I just say it's time the Hispanics start moving.
You know, Frank, I'm happy that you came here because you triggered something for me that I had almost forgotten was Roosevelt Park. And for a long time, they called it Reyes de Helena Park because of the riots that happened here in Albuquerque. I totally forgot, Frank, until you,
Well, police
you're not all
officers-
lady now, so
well,
you're
police
triggering
officers
things.
started that.
Well, let me tell
If
you,
he would have left that kid alone,
it wouldn't
it
have
would
gone.
have never happened.
Let me tell you about Roosevelt Park.
Started it.
This young man and his girlfriend were in a convertible car. He had-
1960 something, right?
Yeah, he had 2 children in the back seat.
70.
Right, he had 2 children in the back seat, his babies. It was convertible, everybody was happy. He drove into the situation, stopped his car, the police jumped in, threw him down, grabbed his wife, and the 2 babies were in the back of the car. Well, we were working with the National Guard, and we had white helmets that said emergency services, because they were throwing tear gas, and we had a doctor at the corner who opened up his house. So we could take people who were gassed to the doctor's house and bathe them. He gave us everything in the house and bathed them and helped them. Well, I picked up this little baby, somebody else had the other baby, and I ran to the door. And a motorcycle officer looked at me, picked up his rifle, and tracked me all the way to the door. And I knew he was there, but I didn't care. I get to the door and I'm banging, let me in, and the door opened and we fell in, me and the little baby. Door closes, tear gas canister hit the door. Boom. There is a definite terror element that's going on, and it's real. Can I ask Clem, who's being patient? Come on, Clem, I'm picking on you now. Come
Before
on.
we leave, I want to thank Mr. Denali, sounded really good. Danny, you know, everybody that's been here that is fighting the cause. And we're here because we care.
Right on.
Not just because we want to pass the day away.
Well, I appreciate your
And all
time.
that. I gotta go right now, and I thank you all.
Frank, you get a hold of me so we can do a round table
Okay,
with you guys.
yeah, well, that's long as, so we'll do a
I know that, another round table.
Another round
La
table.
gente round table.
Hasta la victoria.
We'll see you later.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll see you.
I want to introduce Clem Gutierrez because he's so quiet. But I want him to share what he has to say with you because it's just an extension of everything that we already know, right? Businessmen, attorneys, people in the community, but it's a really good perspective.
Yeah, I was stopped one night on 4th Street from my house by one policeman, and then another one pulled up. And right before that, I was coming down 2nd Street, and this truck passed me real fast and broke my headlight. And I was coming down 4th Street from Osuna, going towards home, and there was police at the Smith Shopping Center, and right away he pulled me over. I mean, because I only had one headlight. And I told him it just happened. He says, and they started looking at my car, and they saw this little zipper thing on the front seat. And the girl came from this side, and she said, "What's in that thing?" I said, "Those are my tapes." And so she said, "No, they're not. You're a big liar." And I said, "Well, pick it up." And then they told me to put my hands up. And they picked it up and opened it, and it was my tapes. So they went through my car, my glove compartment, my back of the car, made me open the trunk. Couldn't get out of the car, but I had a button that I could open the trunk, and they went through the trunk. They pulled everything out and threw it in the ground, you know. And they told me, and then they left after they took my name, my everything. And I told them where I lived. I lived right there on Guadalupe, about 5 blocks away. And they even followed me after I got all my stuff. She followed me, and I pulled into my driveway. And they had the spotlight all over me in the house. And I just went in, closed the garage door, and then they stayed there, you know, both of them, to make sure that that was my house, I guess, because I did go in. And but just things like that, you get kind of afraid to even be out at night.
What year was this?
This would happen right before Christmas.
It's very recent.
Yeah, just December.
2014.
Clem, who did you go to the city and talk to? What happened? What did you do with your complaint?
I went to the police station and tried to make a complaint. They said, "Well, we'll take it." So just start saying what happened. So I did. Nothing would contact me, and nothing ever came about.
We've investigated ourselves. We've done nothing wrong.
Right.
You didn't even get the form letter?
No.
I didn't get nothing. But she had her gun out, because she saw that little, my cassette tapes, right there, she had it out, and she pointed it at me, and he said, "Put your hands up." And he had his hand on his gun. And I said, "Okay, I'll put my hand up."
When did this happen again?
Right before Christmas, in December,
Last
probably
year.
December.
2014, right?
Yeah, this last year. 15, yeah.
79 or something.
But listen, you guys, what's strange about this is the DOJ report was out, and all of those things were already churning, and the behavior's continuing. You know, it's that, even with Dr. Ginger here, we're seeing push and shove still.
Yeah, but they said there's so many stuff before you that we have to take care of. It's gonna take time. And that they're backlogged about complaints, you know. Citizens complaints, you know. But I don't have a DWI, I don't have but speeding tickets, no wrecks. And I tried to tell him. He said, "Oh, you're a liar, you're a liar. You probably got a record a mile long."
This was the IA officer?
This was, yeah, And so, right there is a city and right close to the county, so Smith is in the city, the grocery store.
Yeah, it's right near Los Ranchos, huh?
But
But it's
this-
still, yeah, it's near Los Ranchos, but still not.
Yeah, it's still up 4th Street, yeah.
Just so I'm clear, you never did get a resolution from the city on that?
I tried to get it, but I couldn't, and nothing ever happened. They said they'd get back with me and took, you know, my information. And I told them, and I asked them why they follow me home, you know, to make sure that it was my house, but my license had the address on it. It was just odd. Kind of
Well,
scary.
and they're required by this agreement to effectuate a closure on that. So
Yes, yes.
that's something, a lot of things that happened early on, you know, back in the 70s or whatever, I can't get my teeth into, but this is recent enough.
Right.
Oh, yeah, just happened, December.
We can handle
It's-
it.
See, it's that information that he can bring back, because that information, they're not gonna tell you Clem didn't get taken care of.
No.
But the monitor can say, look, the consent, not the consent decree, the report had already come in, all those things were already in the works, and still, I met Clem because my garage door broke, and he went to fix it. And as we were chatting, he told me the
Story
story.
came up.
I couldn't believe it.
I listen, we're starting to lose a few people here and there. Let me do a couple things.
Oh,
Maria
Michael.
was kind enough to remember to bring business cards for me. I'm gonna leave this. If anybody wants to get a hold of me, the numbers are on here. Thank you, sir.
Mario, do you want to speak for a bit?
And we will have a website contractor hired this week. So that website, www.abqmonitor.org, O-R-G, should be up and running fairly soon. So that'll give us, for those of you who run into somebody who needs to have their story told.
abqmonitor.org.
.org, yeah, abqmonitor.org. And we'll hire the person who's going to develop that website this week. It's one of the reasons I'm here. This meeting, I'm here specifically for this meeting. And then while I'm here, I'm going to finish that piece of business up. So it'll be really easy to get in touch with us through the website. You can leave an email or a message. You can send photographs if you want, whatever you feel like doing.
Are you gonna have an office here? Offices?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're working on that one.
Dr. Ginger, a few things kept coming up, and you raised a good point about like how far or to what extent can you act on things? Are we talking about like post Schultz, during Schultz, just now?
Effectively, January 1st this year, but this is close enough I can go back and find it.
Because I understand there are statute of limitations even on like, say, to the effect that if we feel that our civil rights have been violated, would it still be within the scope of your interest and influence and, you know, the duty of the Department of Justice to be salud, to be aware of anything that might have occurred within what is still
yes. Yes. One of the
pursuable?
things, another thing that we're working on is, and we've talked about it incessantly, wonder what I'm doing, but we're trying to get a group of well-trained students from UNM that can go through that sort of stuff and make sense of it and give us some leverage one way or the other. Not that we can go back 5 years and resolve a case, but we can know the history, which is one of the reasons I'm here right now. I need to understand the history.
Yeah, I wish I could afford it, but even just investigating like to what extent the extent and magnitude of like these violations on civilians, whether they're like these, you know, things that I'm not dismissing that it was an offense to your rights, but like from the things that like, you know, not so harmful to like people ending up dead. Because I think there is a problem with those things being documented and addressed, and people not even knowing how to go about it. I had to figure out because I'm like inquisitive, stubborn.
Well, that's the point that we're trying to get at. We have to be the monitors. He can't do it alone.
Well, eventually I'm going to be gone.
Right.
So one of the things that we know we need to do is to build a cadre of folks that will keep the pressure up, and it's not that we haven't already been trying.
To what extent?
But you'll have a set of tools, I guess, when we're gone.
Okay.
You know, you guys take over that website. Become the Albuquerque Monitor. There's nothing that says you can't.
Speaking of tools, that was my next real question, was like, I'm trying to get a real practical sense of like what we can expect to be able to gain from this, obviously just in terms of what resources you might be able to help us establish in our community. I think one of the most important things, and we probably all agree, is just being able to have enough people be apprised of their rights. Because I'm thinking even the way that the way that our First Amendment right was suppressed during the James Boyd protest, several of us were there when we were tear gassed outside of UNM, and several of us were there at like the 11th hour in front of the police department. And we also have reason to believe that APD is using, what are they called, those agent provocateurs? Because
they
as
showed
we
up
were
to one
doing,
of our protests.
as we were doing one of our nonviolent demonstrations at the end of the night, after we were like gassed out of UNM, and I think you heard of that on March 30th last year, a 12-hour protest, up and down, back and forth between downtown UNM, which ended at the hands of the police's tear gas, like almost at the end, almost at midnight on that Sunday, when we were doing a peaceful demonstration, a constitutionally protected action where we're lying our bodies. Well, you know, they want to say, okay, you're obstructing the traffic, but whatever. So we were demonstrating because we were demanding what you can't do, which is make them do things. You can't demand them, but we can.
Right.
And when we were there, we refused to leave from the stairs of the police department until they fired the chief, which I think a reform should be that he should be elected, or she, whoever happens to be, rather than appointed. I think we should be able to vote for them if people, because the checks and balances in our system are there for a good reason, right? Because at some point, you know, it can't be too easy for people to like wield and administer this power to people who have things like police power. Anyway, I think even just those measurable little pieces that I think that if we were equipped with that, they would outlive you, they would outlive me, and they could like forge more of like the community's ability to understand what our rights are. Because sometimes, I mean, even when we try to stick up for ourselves, what happened to that guy who gets blasted in the face when he's asking for a legitimate response from the officers? Why did you pull me over?
Adriana,
Those things, like what are our rights?
And they
when
are
demonstrating, when getting pulled over, you know, and also like how can we make sure that we can have our complaints answered? And even how can we get the police to report things that are underreported, investigate things that are underreported, like the number of like the West Side women and all those unsolved deaths, and the number of transgender Native Americans who are found like in these like having been brutalized to death, you know. And those people, nobody's been arrested for those deaths, you know. The poor rate of reporting hate crimes. I ended up in a case because I was assaulted by a hate group. And when I told APD it was a hate crime, they said, what happened? I said, I was drunk, me and the women, I think it was a hate crime. I think they're a white supremacist group. And you know what he told me? He said, you can't use a race card anymore. There's a black president now. And when I told him, I think you're being biased. I think you're being biased. Please turn on your tape recorder, because I think our black president himself would like to know the bias that you're exhibiting behind that badge. And you know what he said, sir? He said, that's not my president. I didn't vote for no communist, terrorist, Muslim nigger. APD said that to me, and I ended up tased by 3 of them and handcuffed.
And knocked to the
and
ground.
3 years of my life taken on this trial that I was acquitted because it was self-defense. Those people came to testify, and they testified that they hit me first. And the reasons surrounding that fight were not justifiable. I could have killed them and been acquitted. And the police arrested me. Me and the person they found are like bloody with our ass beat. All of them are unscathed, and we went to jail.
Adriana, those are beyond valid. Those are
because they
valid.
think what having a quote unquote communist terrorist Muslim nigger as a president solved racism.
Name?
Listen.
I have all their names. Look at what size I am. Do I need like 3 officers tackling me when I'm already handcuffed and tasing me? Maybe to restrain my mouth, but not my body.
Let me say something to everybody that's here. One of the reasons these roundtables are going to go on is because we're going to have an office. And we need you in that office too. You feel like dropping in, you have information, you need to call Dr. Ginger. There's a place for us. And we're working really hard to find that office. Let me tell you, we're working really hard. And we are being prevented also because APD has a budget. And you all know that story. But we've gone and looked for offices all over Albuquerque, and they're very expensive.
Is Mario
I'm going to take, let's go Mario.
How about an office in the hood, Dr.
Sylvia,
Ginger?
that's where I took him. I took him to Burrell and Seven.
Over there on
Yeah.
Bridge, and he said
That's where our preference is.
Yeah,
I would like to be in a neighborhood.
We've taken him to all the communities, Adriana.
Well, I'd be happy to connect you with like people who were happy to like rent an office.
Yeah, we need an office room. Mario, go for it.
There's a police substation right there, maybe you could go in.
It is.
We
It's
talked
the
about
Shoe
that
Street
yesterday.
annexation.
Yeah.
That's right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good place.
And it's cheap.
It's an
He's
investment.
gonna have to have it set up.
You're not interested in using some city facility?
I think it's better for us to be out, honestly, because there's a stigma to coming to a city building sometimes. And in some, like the U.S. Attorney's Office, you can't get in without a driver's license. A lot of the folks we need to talk to don't have a driver's license, so we really need a walk-in.
And a lot of them can't even get one
A
because
safe place.
NBD
Let's go
thinks
with
that
Mario,
they're
let's go
suspect.
with Mario because we are on a time frame. Sylvia has
Even
a specific
documented.
limit in terms of time and she's lending us her home. I think
Yeah, but I
everybody.
wanna talk too.
Oh, you're gonna get to talk, believe me. Mario is, very well rooted with the gay, lesbian, transgender, queer community, which has been, have been victims here, for many, many years. I was with a young man who was the victim of the first hate crime in Albuquerque, and it was incredible. So I wanna go with Mario, and then and Sylvia's gonna close. And Adriana, I want you to know that I'm totally listening and hearing you.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
I do. It's just, I don't wanna put anybody over to the side. Dinah hasn't said anything, so Mario, Sylvia, Dinah.
Okay, thank you. My name is Mauro Waldo Montoya, and I'm a recovering attorney.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm a native Albuquerquean, but I've lived in DC, I've lived in Fort Lauderdale, I've lived in Puerto Rico, and I've been back here full time for the past 6 years. And the difference between when I left and when I came back is astounding. When I left, cops were friendly, they were nice, they treated you well. Now, I feel like I'm under siege at any point. I have classic cars, I even stopped because I didn't have a license, because the license plate lights out. I told him it doesn't happen on a classic car. And he continued to harass me about it. Once my mom and I were driving around, just taking her for a ride, and we were downtown, and there was a barrier up so you couldn't turn left. I came onto Central and turned left on Central because there were no barriers there. And immediately he pulled me over and said, "You went right to the barrier." And I said, "No, I didn't." And he was arguing with me. I said, "Look, I'll take you right back there and show you that the barrier wasn't to cross Central, it was to turn left." And he said, "Well, somebody put it there wrong." I said, "Well, it's not my problem." He just continued to harass us. And he was like harassing my mom, who was 83. There's a bar downtown at 5th and Central called FX. The manager is a man named Wes, and I was talking to him recently. He is frequently followed from the bar and stopped. And I know that's anti-gay harassment because they know who he is. He can't drink while he's on, they stop him, they make him go through the whole alcohol thing. He's basically, they know him. They know him. Some even call him by name, but they still make him go through all that stuff.
Stonewall all over again.
Yeah, so I'm sure he would be happy to talk to you about that.
Did you say Wes?
Wes Haggard.
Yeah.
It's time to get our stilettos.
No, not yet.
I have tape for them.
I'll
It's a
cut
joke.
off.
It's
The movie, the real Stonewall.
No matter which bar, there's 3 gay bars in Albuquerque. One's downtown, one's in Knoxville, and one is Wyoming and Central. And the police are always around them. Always around them, like circling, waiting for people to leave, and they immediately pull them over. So I'm sure that's harassment, because it doesn't happen to other people. There was an incident several years ago where there was a gym, and they were having a party, and unfortunately what they did is people paid to get into the party, but they were giving out beer. So between APD and state liquor agencies, they came in and they made these men lay there for 6 hours on the ground, on a concrete floor, basically just to harass them. And they took all their names, they didn't arrest anybody except for the owner. It says something to me big time when our district attorney says that she's frightened for her life by the police.
Right.
I mean, that just said everything right there.
And I've had several conversations with her. She's not kidding.
I believe
That's
it.
what
I totally believe it.
Mary Hahn.
Yeah.
I mean, even looking at Randy McGinn's face after she heard that the judge ruled that they're going to trial, the look on her face was like, please, but like, oh shit, I just got signed up for like trouble.
Yeah, a lot of work.
Her face looked worried.
So, Mario.
They're always like Adriana mentioned, transgender folks are really hard hit. They're really hard hit because sometimes their gender doesn't agree with their driver's license because they haven't changed it yet. They're allowed to do here, but sometimes people aren't that far advanced yet. When that happens, they are really hit hard, and they're always arrested for something. It doesn't matter what it is, they're arrested for something, and then they're harassed in jail. They're just thrown in, there's no accommodation made for them. It's really a tough situation, and for them, it's just been awful.
By accommodation, you're talking about at the jail?
Right, right. And they make fun of them, they call them names. I've heard cops say faggot all the time. my sister and brother, my brother-in-law, my brother and sister-in-law own a building next door to the chemo right across from FX. It was music performances and it was all ages, so it was kids, 16, 18, or whatever. We would stand there and we would watch the police harass people that were driving by on Central. Any Latino man, they stopped. Any Latino man. Like if you were Latino, they pulled you over immediately. Every guy on a motorcycle, they stopped.
And by probability, some of those cops have to be Latino, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I'm, shocked by some of their actions, by watching them. And then hearing them speak and calling them, those no good scum and those lowriders and, that kind of stuff. And then watching people come out of FX and be harassed when they were trying to cross. Because I don't know if you noticed, but they close off the street on Saturday nights, so people can walk around. And I've seen people come out of FX and the cops go right and
Is this
start
on Central?
Yes, on Central.
Central on Fifth Street, right?
Yeah, it's between.
You may
4th
want
and
to go to
5th.
FX sometime and check it
Yeah,
out.
we gotta go, we ought to take them to do
That's
sometime
right.
the, cop watch. You ought to join us to do cop watch.
That's
one night.
exactly the point of this meeting.
And you just go
Precisely.
you just go like undercover boss.
Instead of drive along,
And you'll see
This
what they do.
undercover, think of what you're saying.
Yeah, I'll get you, this guy, you go as undercover boss so you can
You know
see
what?
what they do when
I know
you're
lots of
not
drag
looking.
queens who can
That's
make you look
right.
beautiful.
And that's why all right, check this out.
I'd take you up on that just to prove you wrong.
Then you really
They
gonna
would
get
never figure out who
harassed.
you were.
Well, the
Don't
hardest
be
thing,
surprised if you don't get beat up and arrested.
the hardest thing is to realize that that's really what happens. The warden of our prison
Undercover.
went undercover. The warden, with total documents, so no one could know what was going on, to see what was going on in there. And he is the one that came out and said, we can't lock these guys up for 3 hours a day and then give them one hour in the yard. He went in and went through the whole thing. Now he's advocating to at least try to get the guys out and available to do things. Why did the convict escape the other day? I was in Santa Fe in the middle of all that. He was 59 years old. He was cleaning the highway. 59. He was going to be released in a few months. He said, I ain't going to be released. There's no job. I'd be homeless. I can't do anything. So what's the best thing to do? Break the law. He's guaranteed some more time, because there's no support for him. Let me say something. We did an outreach to Isleta Pueblo. The tribal council has received an application from us. We also did an outreach to Sandia. You have to go through the tribal council. Why did we do that? Because Native Americans are one of the highest groups in numbers that are getting it from
the
police.
highest in percentage.
Out of
Yeah,
all groups, even more than African
and
Americans.
Isleta just developed a new program. It's the Rehabilitation Support Program for homeless, for individuals coming out of jail, but they're Native Americans, so that when they come out, they don't have to hit the street anymore. Isleta is going to provide housing, work, support services, and the other Pueblo that caught on to that is Zia Pueblo. Those are the only two so far. So we are setting up an appointment with Dr. Ginger to go there and hook up with the tribal council and the governor. And I'm serious about community, because we may think, oh, Isleta's over there in Los Padillas. Forget it. You go across I-25 and you're there. They can come right across too.
Yeah.
One across the freeway. So we have to remember those things. Mario, ¿cómo vas?
One other point I want to make, just last one, is there's a lot of guys who are HIV positive. I've been HIV positive for 24 years now. When they're locked up, they don't have access to their meds. They talk to the police and the police don't give a shit. Honestly, they just don't care. So people miss their meds. And they may be in there 1, 2, 3, 4 days, and it's a real serious problem.
Is this the regional jail or is it the lockup?
It's the lockup.
NPC?
The lockup.
Or the prisoner holding tank downtown?
Yeah.
The public
But
safety
yeah,
So it's
building?
an APD
It's
facility.
APD. Right.
I mean,
Right.
that's where they hold you until they take you.
Yes,
to-
prisoner, like a
Yeah.
holding.
But some people have been held there for 3 or 4 days.
You're kidding.
And then they don't get their meds, and then, that's
And it's just like not just HIV meds, but like any other
any meds, right,
blood pressure or
Right.
whatever.
Schizophrenia.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole-
right.
yeah.
We
So
hear what
that's a
Julia
serious
has.
problem.
We are.
Thank you very much for your time.
I want
And last point, I would love to host
Thank you.
one of these for the LGBT community.
to.
All right.
Absolutely, yeah, thank you.
And that's what we need, because they become our eyes. We have to be the monitors. Don't ever think, let me tell you, Dr. Ginger's going to be here longer then the next election, Barry will be gone, the CAO will be gone, he will still be here.
I bet he's not.
You think he's gonna run again? Are you gonna
No.
run
I
again?
think we should take you while, like, one day we'll dress you as a cholo in a
And
low
take you to
rider,
the hospital.
and you'll see what's up. And then we'll put you in drag another day, and you'll see what's up.
I've been there, done that, so
The Native
but the
American.
drag, I'm not so
So you
sure.
want me to start counting and wear stuff
The
that you don't
GLBT, the youth are now, they're trying to put a curfew. They
That
don't
you
know.
won't pass.
Wait,
Yeah,
time.
not gonna-
I'm on a time frame
The
because
homeless?
of Sylvia and Lenny's homes.
Excuse me.
Yes,
can
sir.
Can you get this thing going a little faster?
Yes.
We need to finish by 12 o'clock, but we don't have to take all the time. Go ahead.
Thank you, Lenny. Sylvia.
Okay, this is my husband Lenny. He has always backed everything I do from the very beginning, from the time that they killed my son. He has never said anything in 5 years, and I want him to speak.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a couple of questions for Dr. Ginger. I'm an old man. I'm 76 years old. They killed my son, the police department here. I was born in Texas. And in Texas, when I was a kid, the cops used to harass us for anything. I remember there was this cop named, forget his name right now, but it was a cop that was always on us. He used to take the kids out of town and beat them up. Then I moved to California. I lived out there for 40 years. I was there doing the Warriors' Rights. And I was there when they beat up Ronnie King. Now, my question to you is we're going through all this, everything is sitting down. At the end of this whole situation, what's going to happen? Now, my question is this, hang on, I'm not finished. My question is this, that I know that you came from the DOJ because of the fact that the DOJ came to this city and started checking on all the police department and everything. And then the mayor decided to, the DOJ did what they said, they said their program of what needs to be done. So they got you to come into town so that the city or the police department and the mayor make a deal on the DOJ's findings. My question to you is, are we wasting our time? Are we wasting our money? $4 million or maybe $6 by the time you finish? What's going to happen with all this? Are the people in this city wasting their money, wasting their time, and if anything's going to happen? Or is it just something that's going to keep on going for the rest of our lives?
The answer to that question is yes, if. You're wasting your money if I just leave. We're not wasting your money if I do this and we build something to take my place when I go. That's where we didn't know in Pittsburgh. That was the first one. I left Pittsburgh and within 5 years they were right back to where they were. We knew in New Jersey, and so I did this in New Jersey, except I didn't do it with people, I did it with organizations. That was my mistake, I should have done it with people. That's why I'm with you guys today. I want to build something that takes what we build as monitors and won't let it die. Now, it's not like I'm gonna flip a switch and never come back to Albuquerque, but I will never come back as the monitor. And that makes a big difference. So what I wanna do is, through this process, I wanna build something that's gonna go, you're 76, you got me by 8 years, I'm 68. So when you and I are gone, I want some younger folks to pick up and not let this thing die. That's why I'm here, and that's why I'm gonna spend all the time that I'm gonna spend over the next 4 years having these kinds of meetings and trying to get folks to start thinking systemically and taking the responsibility when, by court order, I have to leave. Judge Brack, one of these days, is gonna sign a thing, a piece of paper that says, I'm not the monitor anymore, you gotta quit. And when that happens, I want something there. It wasn't there in Pittsburgh, they fell backwards. It was there in New Jersey, and that's why APD went to New Jersey last week, because it still works in New Jersey because that stuff was there. They're not gonna let it die. And that's what I wanna do here. I don't wanna let it die. And that's why I'm spending this time, that's why.
Let's go with Sylvia, I'm looking at the clock. It's so difficult to
If
give
we
your
run a
home.
little bit,
Hold on,
like 15 minutes over, it's going to be okay.
Did that answer your
I
question?
want to talk to you,
Sylvia, Sylvia,
Dr. Ginger, as a mother.
Sylvia, I think you wanted to say
Sylvia,
something. You want?
let me ask one, I got one more thing to add to this. You see, you people are complaining about all the things that happen to them. Now, to us, the people that have lost children, like my friend over here,
Right.
see, they killed his son in the back. They shot him in the back.
I know.
Okay, and they shot the guy that got shot 3 times in the back was Dunlap. They shot Dunlap 3 times in the back. They killed my son because he had a knife. Now this is how big his knife was. I'm going to show it to you. It was a kitchen knife. It was no bigger than this, but I'm going to show you something else. This is the knife they showed to the witness that was there.
Hello.
A knife like this, from this. And this is the same thing they did with, what's his name, was the boy.
Yeah.
He had 2 little knives. And the defense came out with serrated knives.
Yeah.
Now what are you going to do about all this?
Well, that's court process. and I'm
Okay,
not- I
okay,
can't touch
talking
court
about
process.
court, this is another problem there is.
I understand.
Okay, let me explain something about court. You see, since I got to this city, I came in 2001, and it's called the Land of Enchantment, the state of New Mexico.
Right.
And now, what's happening is this, is that, corruption starts from the top with Susana Martinez. Because Susana Martinez, when she running for governor, she had a SWAT of guys, a bunch of cops. And one of them was, what's the name,
Darren White.
Darren White, Chief Schultz.
no, the other one, the monitor, the guy that was monitoring the police department.
Greenwood,
Huh?
Stryker.
No, they were here
No,
when she ran.
Monitoring
the guy that had his wife that got caught on the,
Levi.
no, the one that got caught on the
Darren White. That was Darren
white.
Yeah, it was Darren
Yeah,
White.
very white.
Darren?
Yeah,
Darren
he was-
White.
Oh my
he was
God.
one of
He's
them.
former sheriff.
Former sheriff. and
He was one of them that was with Susana Martinez. And then his wife got caught in some incident with drugs. And he went and rescued her. And then he gets fired, he quits the police department, and Susana Martinez hired him. Now,
Yeah, to run.
the system is faulty from the top to the bottom.
To run our state.
I mean, there's nothing, if you're gonna just work on the city, you might as well forget it. It's from top to bottom, and the whole system.
That thought will have to live for another day, because I work for the judge. He tells me,
Yeah, I know.
you know how this goes, right? We're lucky to be where we are. Trust me, there are thousands of communities in this country that need what you have right now. They don't have it. They don't even have a glimmer of it. So you're very fortunate, but everybody needs to understand it. And it pains me to say this, but my portfolio is limited to
Okay,
the
well,
only.
you see, but this is where I say,
I
we're
understand,
not
right.
gonna get anything out of it, because here's what it is. You see, the police department is afraid. They're always scared of a homeless. And they're always worried about their lives. And they take a little knife and they kill them. Now, they say they're afraid. I was in the military. They taught me how to kill. And when you go out there to kill somebody, you're not supposed to be afraid. Now, why are these guys afraid? They got all the equipment. The SWAT team got more gear than the paratrooper from the 101st.
Right.
So
I'm right there with you. When I went out on the street, I had a 6-shooter, and that was it. And if I needed to call for help, it was gonna be a long time before it got there.
well, but these guys are
So I
packed
know-
like they're going to combat.
I know.
And then one more thing they did. They sent a SWAT team for a grandma that was in her house. She wouldn't come out. They sent a SWAT team.
Barricaded.
They're gonna fix that?
It's one of the things we're gonna address, yeah.
Okay.
I think you should also audit the circumstances or scenarios in which they call SWATs, because case in point, not too long ago, the last one
That's
right
on the
there in
table,
Len.
Technically, and that's,
I saw it, and I'm telling you because I saw
Excuse
it.
me, dear, let the other people talk, because it's getting time to go.
Let's do this, Adriana, wait.
Maybe next time we should host somewhere that is
wait.
neutral
No,
ground, so
wait,
people
wait.
don't feel like they need
Adriana.
to kick people out of their
Senora,
house.
It's
Senora.
because I'm
We-
being diagnosed for a disease.
I
okay?
understand,
The
that's
only
another
reason-
reason not to.
Wait, the only reason that we're keeping a very strict claw is because Celia has to go to the doctor, and so we decided to go till 12. It isn't our last meeting. If you decide you wanna continue to work with Dr. Ginger, you have direct access. You don't have to go to the city council, any organization, you're Adriana, the human being.
Give me a call, send me an email.
And then we start, the work,
Thank you, by the way,
and you put,
for hosting us.
well, she's,
It's okay, I'll wait till 12:15. I just have to be there early.
let's go with Sylvia, and then we know how much
Well,
time we
really,
have.
all I have to say was, I wanted to meet the $4 million man. Then I wanted to tell you my story. It happened 5 years ago. And I wanted to tell you my story because
Give it to her.
I'm tired of telling my story. And I don't see any change. They're still killing the boys. And so, I just wanted to show you some pictures. Like I said, I wanted to talk to you as a mother. This is my baby. And this is my daughter, my granddaughter, the one that, his daughter, that didn't get to see her dad for a long time. And this is my son when he was playing baseball in Little D. And then somewhere along the way, when he was about 14 years old, he became schizophrenic. And my husband and I, we worked very hard to get him help. And we kept running into dead ends all the time. He got here in in June of 2009. He had been in prison for involuntary vehicular manslaughter. What happened is that he was, when he used to drink, see, they're not supposed to drink, schizophrenic.
Right.
But when he used to drink, he would they have no inhibitions. And so he was on a motorcycle with his girlfriend, and the cops were chasing them, and he lost control of the motorcycle, and his girlfriend got killed, and so they gave him 7.5 years. And I waited for 7.5 years, and I read every book I could get my hands on about schizophrenics, how to help my son. And then I bring him over here, and I try to take him to see a psychiatrist, and they couldn't see us right away. They couldn't give him medication. I had to go to the homeless place so that they would give him medications. And I took him faithfully, and 3 days before I was finally gonna get a psychiatrist to see him, they killed him. He was living in the only place in town where they rent to ex-cons and all that. And so in 3 days he was gonna move home because he knew that he couldn't take care of himself. And so he was gonna move home. And in 3 days we were gonna get a psychiatrist to see him. And it was too late because they killed him 3 days ahead of time. And so this is my son, the way he looked when they killed him. And we had made a lot of progress when he got out of the prison. They had given him 22 pills a day. And when I started getting a hold of him and helping him, he only was down to 2. One was Ambient, and the other one was a blood pressure pill, a high blood pressure pill. And he was doing really good. Unfortunately, he met a girl, of all places, the mental hospital. And so together they were quite a bit pair. But anyway, the night they killed him, the fight was over. He was standing outside of his future mother-in-law's car. And the police came up to him. And he wasn't doing anything wrong anymore. Everything was quiet. The fight was over. I mean, she was going home with her mother. There was nothing going on. But yet, see, I always tell my son, whenever the police approach you, do what they tell you to do. Do what they tell you to do. And what I told him killed him. Because a police officer asked him for his knife. He says, do you have a knife or a weapon? And he says, yes, I have a knife. He said, give it to me. That's not protocol. That's not protocol. So when he took this knife out to hand it to him, the other police officer that was behind the car started screaming, knife, knife. And then he started fussing with my son, and my son went away from him and stood with his back against a fence. And see, the guy that killed him, he had a taser. He had crisis intervention, but yet he was toning him like they're not supposed to do. And so, of course, they were agitating my son. He was agitating him. And within 3 minutes of when that police officer got out of the car, he aggravated the situation and they killed him. Now, the part that I want to say is, sir, that ever since I started going to the council, all I want to see, the witnesses that I have are ex-con or parolees and stuff like that. So they came the next morning and they told me what had happened to my son, and they said, "Are you Fox's mom?" And I said, "Yes." And then they said, "All we want to do is tell you what happened." And they told me. And the mother told me, because the mother of the girl was there also, so it all collaborated. So anyway, to make a long story short, when I decided that I was going to go to the council and see, I'm not a cop hater. My dad was a deputy with the deputy sheriff, my uncles, highway patrolman, U.S. Marshals, you name it, we have it in the family. So when these guys came to me and told me, I asked them, "Will you be my witnesses?" And they said no. And I said, "Why?" "They'll kill us. They'll find a way to kill us." And I thought, oh man, that's a bunch of bull, because I come from a family of cops. Well, the next day after I went to the council, I had been warned that if I went to the council that they were going to send thugs out to get me. Well, of course I didn't believe them. I went to the city council, and within 24 hours, the cops were parked back here and they were parked in front. My husband was in the back fixing something, and he says, "Sylvia, there's a cop car parked behind our house." And then my daughter was coming from the grocery store, and she came in and she was shaking. And she says, "Mama, the police are out there. They're undercover, but do you know that they're police?" Right. And they waved to me, Mama, and smiled. And she was shaking. And my husband was just upset that they were back there. Well, I was going to go out there and take pictures of the car so I could prove it. But then I thought, they're killing everybody for everything. So if I go out there with a little camera, he can say, "Well, I thought it was a weapon," and kill me. Yeah. So this was the best picture I could take through the fence and everything.
You're brave, Sylvia.
So then, this is just another picture of my handsome son. So then what ended up happening is that they started harassing me. See, a year before then I had called them because they were selling drugs back here. And the police officer told me, "Oh, well, when you see them, call us." Well, I don't think so, because if I see them, they see me, and they're going to put two and two together. And so they never did anything about it. Now, after that day that they had cops here and there, almost every day for 3 months, if it wasn't the deputy sheriff's car, it was an APD, or if it was a state police. They kept going by all the time. They harassed me so much, or it upset me so much, that I had my husband build a fence up higher so that I didn't have to see them. The last time they bothered me was last year, Dinah. Was it last October? Not this one, but the one before?
Yes.
Dinah was here visiting me, talking to me. She had just become very active in the movement. And when she left, a squad car came. And I walked out, and I asked them if I could help them, and they said, "Well, somebody reported that you were having domestic violence at your house." So I said, I'm 70-something years old, my husband's 75. I said, we've been married 54 and a half years. Does it look like we're rioting or something? And he goes, no, well, they called us up and told us that. I said, what did they tell you? They gave you this address? And they go, no, well, somewhere on this street. Now, pray tell, who gives you a call like that? Somewhere on Hollywood Avenue, somebody's having a fight. They never give you that kind of instruction. So they were here to bother me. But I also wanted to say that.
This was just last year.
This was last
That's
October.
October, yeah.
Yeah, and so what I want to say is that every so often they come out, you know. So far I have been inactive for about maybe 2 years now. I've been inactive. I still go to some meetings, but not all of them. And but during the first 3 months that the cops were going back to there, they would follow me wherever I go. They say they're short of police, but they would follow me. One time I was going to Rio Rancho, and there was a car, cop's car on the left of me, the right of me, in front of me, and in back of me, escorting me to the line of where Rio Rancho starts. And at first I was very, very scared, but then, you know, there's a process that you go through. And I thought, you're not gonna harass me and scare me anymore. So now I was just like, what's going on? They took pictures of me. They opened a restaurant out here, Los Padrinos. When they opened it up, I had dyed my hair a different color because, you know, I got tired of them chasing me. I thought maybe that might help. But it ended up, the police were taking pictures of me in the restaurant.
What?
So, because they ID'd me still. So I just want to say that what they say about being harassed is true. Look, I'm not out there, you know, rioting or making a big fuss or screaming or hollering or carrying on. I'm an ordinary great grandmother. I have 4 grandchildren and they're all his. And all I'm saying is that even though I'm a law-abiding citizen, I've never been ticketed for anything except speeding because I have a heavy foot. But outside of that, nobody can say this lady is this or that or the other. I'm a 100% law-abiding citizen. My husband is the one that, we couldn't help it if our son was schizophrenic. But that shouldn't have been a reason to kill him.
It's not a crime.
Yeah,
And there was more to this story than that, but I don't want to say in front of anybody, but I would tell you, you want to know.
Sure.
My son, I consider him a hit. He was a hit. Somebody came to kill him. And his partner, if you look at the police reports, his partner was there he was not his regular partner. And he was there to kind of just scope it out and see what's going on and if it was over, whatever. But this guy was out to kill Lenny from the get-go. You can tell by the police reports. And then they're so rude. You know, I found out that I was supposed to that they were supposed to interview the sons of a homicide or the family of a homicide. So I called this detective and I said, well, when are you guys going to come and interview us? And she said, we already interviewed you. I said, when? She said, when we went to go and tell you that we killed your son. I said, okay, I was totally insane. I was babbling like a fool. My husband had to pull me inside the house because I didn't even know what I was saying. And you called that an interview? And she said, yes.
Oh, God.
So then, when I went to go pick up all of his belongings, they didn't give me his belt buckle. Well, so I called him up and I said, I want the belt buckle. And she said, oh no, it was shattered by the bullet. I said, no, it wasn't. I said, I happen to know that you have it. And she said, well, we need it for evidence. I said, evidence of what? That you shot my son in the belt buckle, that the bullet ricocheted into his heart and killed him instantly. I said, you need it for that. And so, you know, they get away with murder. Hell. They get away with everything. You know, since my son was 4 years old, we planned to come to New Mexico to retire. And then we come here to retire, and let me say, I've lived in Northeast, When I was there, I was a manager for a housing project for seniors. The cops were totally great to me. Then, one time I was in the war zone, and they had come because my son, we had an incident with my son, and he had to take him to the mental health hospital. And they mistook a friend of his that was there for him, and they threw him against the wall, and the boy kept saying, what did I do wrong, what did I do wrong? And they kept saying, shut up, we asked the questions, you don't ask nothing. And he kept asking, and finally I told him, don't say anything, stop, don't say anything, don't say anything. So finally the man stopped talking, and the cop, all the time he was doing all this to this guy, was acting like I was a fly on the wall. He could have asked me, I'm an older woman, he could have asked me what's going on, nothing. Just bouncing this guy around and knocking him on the wall and whatever.
Thinking it was your son.
Huh?
Thinking it was your son.
I'm sorry?
He thought it was your son.
Yeah, he thought it was my son, so he was knocking him stupid. And so then whatever, they let him go. Finally, paramedics came and he told them this was not the guy, and they let him go. But see, that's the way in the different neighborhoods, they behave different ways.
Oh, yeah.
And over here, well, they've just been spying on me a lot, you know,
Still.
I'm gonna tell you something. I bet you money that when you guys all leave, okay, within the next week, a cop will pass by. And you know how long it's been since they passed by? Probably months.
You mean this major street
because
over
they're
here?
just kind of wanting,
major.
they're just get, did you see what?
I said, you mean this major thoroughfare here?
Along with all the traffic.
Well, one of the things they're doing is they monitor on Facebook all of our communication. They monitor everything. Who's meeting, where are we going, who are we? I know every day, I tell Mira when I'm on my
So
way to Saturday.
they harassed
Yeah.
Dinah since she became part of the movement. I don't know if they followed you around, but they mostly do this to women because I think we're more vulnerable to scare off. Well, I got news with them. You know, I already lived my life. If they kill me, I go to heaven and I see Jesus.
To paraphrase, being afraid no ghost.
Well, I haven't lived my life in.
No, so I just wanted to share with you and to tell
I'm
you,
glad you did.
in my case, what could you do to make me a little bit happy?
Well, I think we'll never make you happy, but I think we can make you feel better if we can fix this problem, or at least take a major step toward doing it. And so that's what we want to do. We want to leave here in 4 or 5 or 6 years, whatever it's going to be, and have in place a system that will control for this kind of stuff, that will adequately investigate it, that is adequately supervised and adequately reviewed. And then we have in the community folks who aren't going to let them start sliding back, that they're going to insist on certain things
Do
continue.
you think there's ever going to come a day when the community will be able to do this? Because right now, they're the boss. They have been the boss the last 5 years.
Well, if we can't do it now, we'll never be able to do it. This is our best shot. It is our best shot. Because we have, I work for a federal district court judge, and those guys are pretty powerful. They can pretty well get anything they need done. So.
And I wanted to say in the police report, the guy never mentioned that he told Lenny to give him his knife.
Oh, I'm sure not. Of course not. Yeah.
You
You wouldn't dare.
No.
They never do.
Anyway, that's all I wanted to say, that my main objective is to stop more mothers from going through what I'm going through. Because our sons, it's not our sons' fault that they're born the way they are, they're schizophrenic, so they have mental illness. Him and also Ken Ellis' son, it's not the boy's fault that they were born this way, and it's not our fault that we birthed them.
That's right.
We didn't know that they were gonna be born this way, and even if we did, what good parent would say, well, abort it? That's all I wanted to say. And that's why I held it here, and there's my girl.
Sylvia, I want to say thank you so much.
I'm not.
Dinah, I'm sure you have some words for us.
Yeah, not a whole lot, because I think we already know what we're dealing with. But we're still having issues getting IPRA requests. They are you know, using the law to such an extent that asking for a basic policy is considered burdensome. And we're currently having to sue for like simple things. They're still spying on us. There's a RTCC, or Real-Time Crime Center.
Yeah.
They got 2 planes in the air, which I believe they got 2 planes in the air plus their helicopters, and they're failing to disclose that. They got monitoring at most lights. They monitor cell phone records and of course social media, but that's public. And they're not letting us know by which means that they're doing that, or they have failed to deny it completely, which is still a problem. The homeless community, they have no access to making police complaints, assuming they'd be crazy enough to actually file one. The rope team was disbanded by the United States Department of Justice, and they are still working. They are still called the rope team, the repeat offender team, and they are the team that has the largest amount of killer cops, or at least killer cops that derive from there. And undercovers still remain to be a problem. They ride around with like dirty plates or their personal vehicles. They're jumping out of their vehicles with AR-15s and like Gestapos, and I have all of that like on film and video, and we're just waiting for a time when it is safe to like release all of that, so we don't end up dead or in the mesa. And from the community, we just have one request currently, is that when you make your recommendations, that you make them publicly, so that when they, and clear, so that when the city does not do it, you know, it's on record that somebody said no. And we'd like to call you to action today to ask the mayor not to host the NRA shooter cop killer competition that's been held here every year. We tried to shut it down last year. And they're hosting a hotel, and we plan to do it this year again, and play a movie on the side of that hotel's building.
What is the hotel?
It's not the Fairfield, but I possibly.
The one at University.
Yeah.
Oh, University?
University and
MG,
what?
MCM Elegante.
Indian School, south of Indian School.
Oh, that's right, that's the one.
MCM Elegante from the same as last year.
Indian
No.
School South.
No, the University
hotel is
south of
different,
Indian
but
School.
it's on the
sorry.
NRA website.
South of Manal.
And,
Sorry, south of Manal.
You know, the city hosts it every year. It's insulting. And it's insulting that our mayor would rather do that than, you know, admit that we have a problem, because he's on record denying any wrongdoing like 17 times in federal court. And, you know, we require representation, and we don't expect our civil liberties in any way, shape, or form to be subject to approval or disapproval. They just sort of exist. And police by far need to understand constitutional law and that rights exist far beyond their officer's Bill of Rights, because when you become an officer, it's not when you do your training and you get the shiny badge and like a uniform with patches. It's when you do the oath, you know? And that includes constitutional protection.
Right.
And so we require that, and and for us to feel that we have to be lucky that you're here, that the DOJ stepped in, is absurd that we're having that conversation. And it's very, like, it's concerning to such extent that I don't even know what we're talking about anymore. You know what I mean? It's so convoluted. But that's all I have to say.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Those are good points. I want to thank everybody. I know you're on a schedule, and I don't want to keep us any later than we have to.
I just wanted to say that we're hopeful. That's all we can say.
Yeah, I mean, I realize, you know, this is a heavy
we've
lift.
been broken, beaten, scarred here for years.
Yeah.
No one's paid attention to us, nobody cared, and that's what we gotta get the community to do. We gotta get the community to care.
Involved, yeah, right
To
away.
care, because they don't care about the $50 million that's being spent out of taxpayers' pockets, you know?
Year after year after
You
year.
know, they don't care about it. They didn't come out for the election. The people that needed to come out for the election didn't come out. And, you know, we need to not have that fear that because a barely legal resident or someone who's poor, their vote don't mean anything, you know? Because voter suppression is occurring in this country.
Oh,
And,
absolutely.
and we cannot have that here. We have to make everybody feel equal here and not afraid. And that's gonna be something that's gonna be up to the government and to you, because you're gonna have to have full disclosure, be transparent, you know, do weekly reports on TV, get the media out there to monitor what you're doing. And to make sure that the people know that, yes, Dr. Ginger's crew is doing something, you know?
You know,
I agree, I think you're right, and there's, you know, look, we need to work on that as well, from our end, not just from your end, so.
Mike, I want to assure all of you that we're looking for offices, and I'm working as a volunteer with Dr. Ginger, okay? The reason I'm doing it is because I grew up here, and Albuquerque wasn't like this. And I have big issues about what Albuquerque means. And also I have issues because I see the high percentage of Hispanics, although they don't call it racial profiling, but I see all of this. So my goal was bring this word together today. Mario wants to do a roundtable. Please talk to Dr. Ginger. Anything you need, I'll help you. Mike, if you want to do a roundtable, Danny, Adriana, Pete, anybody, let's do a roundtable, because what that means is this. You have 10 people here today. Those 10 people have an opportunity to contact 1,000. If those 10 people get those 10, pretend it's a pyramid scheme.
Right.
You know?
And then eventually what we leave
Yeah.
is a community that can continue to do what we're doing right now. And I know for a fact there are lawyers out there, even though there are some recovering lawyers, I love that line, that will be willing to help you. And, you know, once we're gone, I mean, eventually, we all need to realize, eventually, we're gonna be gone. That's a fact.
You know, it's very
So-
hard, Dr. Ginger, because everybody loves the police until they find out that they're rats.
What's going on?
And they don't love the police
What is
anymore.
spoiled cannot be unspoiled.
Well,
If
but
we get
you
an
can cut out the
office,
rotten
and we're
parts
not
and
really
save
obligated
the
to
big
love
piece
them.
if you're
They're
lucky.
supposed to
serve
If you're lucky.
look,
but
when we
that's-
get an office, I'll need you, we need everybody,
Yeah.
so that office can
That'd be
function,
great.
and so people feel safe coming to it.
And I have one final question. In doing these roundtables, how public should we be? Like, should we put a notice on Facebook, or should we contact people individually, or how should we?
Well, let me tell you how I did it. I did it, of the first group, I focused on Hispanic because we have high percentages. And I never knew Sylvia's son had been killed by APD. I met her on Facebook, just chatting, hello, how are you? And then when I realized, Sylvia, this actually happened to you, because I didn't know. She puts nothing out except hello, how are you? So then I came to visit her. And we said, you know what? And then Dr. Ginger worked with me. And so we started thinking, we don't have the numbers and we're spinning our wheels at City Hall. So let's spread it out.
But how do you communicate that's what Mom was asking?
Yeah, what's the best?
Well,
way?
I do yours, private message through Facebook.
Right.
Danny,
Word of mouth.
I got you through your phone number. We had a hard time with Dinah because I didn't want to put it just out on Vodka Media, but that went through Sylvia. I had met Pete and I talked to him. Adriana and I had some good conversations, and Charles. So that's how we came. Mr. Moss asked permission to be in the house. It went through Sylvia, it went through Mike, Mario, Pete. The only person that's not here that was trying to get here is John Cordova. And for those of you that don't know, he had a slight stroke.
No way.
Yeah. It hasn't wiped him out, but he's definitely been affected by it. And that was when? A couple of weeks ago or so? I was wondering why I said
Real
that.
quick before I forget, because I'm one of those forgetters, if I don't say what I'm gonna say, I just wanna thank everybody for honoring me by your presence in my home.
Thank
I
you.
know that in our own way, everybody's doing the best they can.
Thank you. Sylvia.
Thank you for hosting
And
us.
Lenny,
Hosting us.
thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm gonna help take the dishes to the kitchen.
No, hey,
All
we have a butler here. Don't
I have
worry
a
about it.
Would it be possible to get Dr. Ginger, once the website is up, Maria, to facilitate a sort of listserv or bulletin that we can all start communicating through so that
Who
the
has
anonymity-
his number?
I got his
Who works
card.
on computers?
I got his card.
so
My
that
friend,
the
I didn't
anonymity
recognize you when I
is
first
early,
walked
and
in.
then we also make sure that
And I'm like, why
whoever
does
we
he look
invite
familiar?
is
He's gonna do the next meeting.